Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Hub back into the video today. Today, we're going to be previewing the Houston Texans Week 10 matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, as the Houston Texans will try to win their second straight game and go over 500. They haven't been over 500 since the 2019 season. It's been a while. But, yeah, this is a chance for the Texans to go over 500. I mean, if you want to count the Texans being over 500 in Week 1 of the 2021 season, they were 1-0. But who cares about Week 1? That's one game, and then the Texans were terrible the rest of that season. So the Texans have not been over 500 since the 2019 season. At the end of the year, when they were, going into the playoffs, I think they went. I think they went 10-6 that year. They either went 11-5 or 10-6 that year. I believe it was 10-6. This is going to be a tough week for the Texans. You want to talk about what the Bengals are dealing with injury-wise with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. T. Higgins is likely out. Jamar Chase is going to be a game-time decision. And honestly, I don't know if I see Jamar Chase playing in this ballgame. They're going into their Week 11 matchup is against the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be a very important division game. And who knows if they want to risk their two best wide receivers potentially getting hurt or re-aggravating an injury. So I don't see Jamar Chase or T. Higgins playing in this ballgame, but they still have Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, a couple other guys on offense to step up, a solid defense. But the biggest thing in this going into this game is the Houston Texans are dealing with their fair share of injuries as well, if not worse than the Cincinnati Bengals. Nico Collins has a calf injury. He's questionable, did not practice today. Dameon Pierce dealing with an injury as well. I think a knee injury. He did not practice today, and he's questionable for Sunday's game. Will Anderson Jr., starting defensive end, number 3 overall pick in the draft, questionable with a knee injury. Also, Steven Nelson, a starter on defense, questionable with a back injury. Henry To'oTo'o, starter on defense with the linebacker crew. He is questionable with a concussion. I don't think he will play. Laramie Tunsil, our starting left tackle, questionable with a starting right tackle is questionable with a knee injury as well, and I don't think he'll play. Andrew Beck, our fullback, is questionable with a shoulder injury for Week 10. Derek Stingley Jr., that's one good thing. He's returning from his hamstring injury, but he might have to go up against Jamar Chase. Blake Cashman, another guy, if Henry To'oTo'o isn't able to go, Blake Cashman will step up for the Texans defense. He's questionable with a knee injury. Jonathan Grenard, questionable for a shoulder injury. And this is another thing, let's say, what if Henry To'oTo'o and Blake Cashman are out? The two guys you think are going to step up for the Texans with the linebacker crew will be Jake Hansen and Majay Sanders. But no, doubtful is Jake Hansen with a hand injury, and questionable is Majay Sanders with a knee injury. And then you also have another doubtful player, Kaimi Fairbairn, dealing with a quad injury. But the Texans did sign Matt Amendola to the practice squad, so he'll be the new kicker if Fairbairn is out. Hassan Ridgeway is out for the season with a Achilles injury. MJ Stewart is on IR with a shoulder injury. Dameon Pierce is questionable. Robert Woods is questionable. Brevin Jordan is questionable. Charlie Heck is out, but he's been out all season. Jimmy Ward is questionable. Juice Scruggs and Jared Patterson, 2 offensive linemen, are out on IR. And Tegan Quatanaro remains on IR. So does Eric Murray. So does Kendrick Green and Kenyon Green and other players as well. So this Texans injury list is brutal. And I'm not saying, all the guys that are questionable that I just listed. I mean, you got all the guys that are questionable that I just listed. You got Dameon Pierce, Brevin Jordan, Robert Woods, Jimmy Ward. All the other guys, Majay Sanders, Jonathan Grenard, Blake Cashman, Andrew Beck, Laramie Tunsil, Henry To'oTo'o, Steven Nelson, Will Anderson Jr., Nico Collins. It's not like it's a guarantee all these guys won't play, but I'm assuming there's going to be a good chance half of these guys, if not maybe more than half of these guys, don't play. And obviously the Texans have some other guys that can perform outside of these guys that are not on the injury list. But this injury list for the Texans right now is brutal. And you know, I think both teams are going to be hurting from injuries and going into this game. I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to play out for this ball game for both teams. Who gets the win? I think it's going to depend on who's suiting up for both teams. If Jamar Chase and T. Higgins don't play, it's looking like it goes that route, the Bengals are going to be hurting on offense. But look at all the injuries the Texans are suffering with. I'm not feeling confident going into Cincinnati, but it makes me feel a little bit better knowing their two top wide receivers are out, but are most likely gonna not play. But for the Texans, they're dealing with a lot of injuries themselves. It's gonna be an interesting matchup for sure. I mean, not only that, but you have two quarterbacks who played at Ohio State, C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is more famous for what he did at LSU, though. But I think these are two quarterbacks that definitely play a lot like each other. I think they're two quarterbacks who are very similar in the way they play the game, and you see a lot of comparisons when you talk about C.J. Stroud. You compare him a lot to Joe Burrow, and I think it's going to be a great game between two great quarterbacks who I believe are both top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. And I'm going to say if the Texans can get some of these guys to play, you can get Nico Collins. I'm saying if Nico Collins and Will Anderson Jr. and Blake Cash, if Will Anderson Jr., Nico Collins, and Jimmy Ward can suit up for the Texans, I think they get the win. I don't think you need Dameon Pierce. I think if the Texans can get guys like if they have Will Anderson Jr., Jimmy Ward, and Nico Collins out there on Sunday, I believe the Texans will win. But and Laramie Tunsil as well. But if they're without Laramie Tunsil, Nico Collins, Will Anderson Jr., and Jimmy Ward, I think it's a rough day for the Texans and they lose this game. But it's really hard to do a prediction when you don't know who's going to be out there for the Houston Texans or the Cincinnati Bengals for that matter. But for right now, for the Texans, if they can get some guys on the field that are questionable or doubtful, I'm going to go ahead and say the Texans win 27-24. But if those guys that I've listed don't play, I got the Bengals winning 27-17. That's it for the video. If you guys enjoyed, let me know your thoughts, and peace out. Go Texans.